Hi guys, it's Gabby. So yeah, Resurrection F spoilers are abound. It's premiered and everyone's talking about it. Only some people are talking about it. From what I can tell, it seems to be both better and worse than I was expecting. But I think I'm going to delay my overall judgment on it until I've actually seen it, which is going to be in like another 5 years or so, or hopefully a few months. It depends on if or when they get it to Australia. And if they get it to Australia, and if it's on cinemas, I definitely want to see it in cinemas. Don't know who's coming with me. Hope I can find someone because I don't want to go on my own. Anyway, so I was just thinking, some people have been quite negative about it. Some people have been positive about it. Some people are like, oh, well, if you want another Dragon Ball Z movie, why don't you come up with your own, or fan fiction, or just, what do you think if you had a chance to make a Dragon Ball Z movie, what would you do? And I was thinking about that. I was just like, so if I could make a Dragon Ball Z movie, what would I do? I mean, if I had a chance to make a Dragon Ball Z series, it would also be very different, and I might explain that later on. That's a video for another time. Here I'm just talking about movie, like one movie that I want to do. I've got two ideas, but I think I'm going to do my second idea first. And yeah, because the first one's a bit weirder and a bit harder to swallow, and also it takes place in between the Cell and Boo sagas. Yeah, because I'm not going to start saying that I'm really creative, because let's be honest, I have these two ideas, but they can really just be summed up as rewrite of BoJack Unbound and rewrite of Wrath of the Dragon. So I'm going to talk about my rewrite of Wrath of the Dragon. Do you guys like Wrath of the Dragon? Because I actually enjoy it. It's got issues. It's not perfect, but I really like it. If you guys ever wanted to see it, you guys should see it. It's because it does something interesting. It does something new, and that's that. It's mostly character focused, and that's also because it introduced an original character. Original character? No, not fan fiction, like actual sort of more official in Tapion. And so it's mostly about Tapion, and he's kind of the protagonist of the story. And that's I think that's what makes Wrath of the Dragon quite good and interesting, and it's more story focused and it's on the characters. And as a result, the only real flaws are when it starts getting to the action, everything starts getting really normal, and it's sort of jarring when you compare the stuff on Tapion to the actual fights with the giant monster, which I cannot remember its name, the villain of Wrath of the Dragon, because it's really kind of complicated name. But in that, it's like, oh, and then at the end, it starts going all normal. It's like, oh, and Goku beats the main villain again, even though really, by all means, it should be Tapion or Trunks who should be the main villain, but this time it's Goku again, because Goku has to win all the time. So that's what I want to do if I wanted to make a Dragon Ball Z movie. Focus on another original character. I just came up with an idea like recently. So I was thinking maybe have like a character that the audience can relate to. The audience of generally young Japanese boys, but audience in general. An actual more relatable character than, the Z Fighters, because they're all interesting, but they're not really normal. None of them are normal. So yeah, I want basically an outsider who is introduced into the story, and then he goes and like interacts with all of the Dragon Ball Z characters. He learns it from a newcomer's perspective. So he starts off, and he like learns about everyone and learns about the characters, and the characters can explain all their situations to them, and explain the backstory, and explain like who they are. So for like a first comer, if someone doesn't know anything about Dragon Ball Z, it would actually be a very great way to start, because they can sort of explain some of the stuff simply. Right, so who was this original character? My current thought is, I was thinking like, yeah, maybe like an alien, but like sort of a young boy alien. And I had an idea that maybe he's like, the prince or some kind of, he's this alien from another planet, and his planet was targeted by another race of aliens because they were searching for some kind of like amulet or something that has like unbelievable power or something like that. And so his like parents, they like sent him off to Earth with the amulet so that those guys don't get their hands on it. And well, first of all, he's kind of spoiled, and second of all, he's all kind of timid, and he's like, oh, like, and he probably like, you could just imagine like the first scene, and it'd be like all this havoc and like the bad aliens invading the good aliens planet, and then the parents like shoving him into the pod and being like, you have to survive and you have to make sure this thing doesn't go into the wrong hands. And you'd be like, no, I don't want to leave you, Mom and Dad and whatever. And then he's like, no, there's no time. And then they send him off into space. So why he lands on Earth, I think there's either two options. Either he lands on Earth because everyone's got low power levels there and they assume that he'll be left alone. Or they land on Earth because they somehow know about Goku and Vegeta and basically heard rumors about Super Saiyans there. And he thought that if he lands there, then the aliens would be, if they find out where he is, the aliens will be too scared there because they're like, oh, I've heard there's that Super Saiyan there, or more than one Super Saiyan there. If we go there, we'll be easily destroyed. So yeah, that person, that alien, original character, I'm going to call him. Let's just call him OC for now. So OC goes and he like crash lands on Earth, and then his like space pod or whatever gets discovered by the Saiyans. Right now I was thinking Goten, because Goten hasn't really had much of an individual role in movie first, so that would make it kind of unique. So yeah, like Goten like discovered the pod, and then this alien's like, oh, the aliens, so yeah, to be more relatable, the alien sort of, he's kind of, he's shy, but he's also scared. Yeah, he's very scared, and he's timid, and he's like, he kind of wants revenge, but he doesn't because he's a bit of a coward, and he just sort of wants to hide and doesn't want to stand up for what he believes in, even though he wants to stand up. And so he wants to hide, and he wants everyone to leave him alone, but the characters of Dragon Ball Z, being the characters of Dragon Ball Z, don't really leave him alone either way. It might just be through coincidences, it might just be through really funny things in general. Why he hijinks, I don't know, but either way, OC ends up forming a close connection to all of the characters. I was thinking like the 5 Saiyans. So Goku, Vegeta, Goten, Trunks, and Gohan. And like he could have like a sort of conversation and like a scene with each of the characters, and then each of those characters sort of like imparts some wisdom onto him. So like Goku is just sort of being Goku and being like, oh, yeah, you should like fight because fighting is fun. I like fighting. And Vegeta's more just like, yeah, stop being such a coward and a pansy. You should man up and whatever. And he's like, I used to be a mass murderer, but well, I'm just giving advice to you anyway. Goten and Trunks, not really sure. Like Goten maybe individually, and he'd just be like, oh yeah, I know what you mean, that you're like kind of scared and stuff. And Trunks would also be like sort of a bit more blunt, and I'm not really sure. Don't know what Goten and Trunks would do, but I want them to do something. And then Gohan would also be like, oh yeah, I used to be like that, all shy and nervous and not knowing how to stand up for myself, but then I learned eventually. So of course, Dragon Ball Z being Dragon Ball Z, we do need action. So the evil aliens who wanted that amulet in the first place, they do come to Earth eventually, and so I don't know whether they're gonna know about the Super Saiyans or not, but either way they show up, and then they're like, oh, you have to give it to me, and so fight scene begins. Pretty much all the Saiyans versus all the aliens, and we could do like a Resurrection F thing where they have like a whole bunch of bad guys, so it's basically them just like mowing down all these aliens and being like, no, we won't give this to you because we've heard you're evil because you killed all those people on that planet, right? So they must clearly be evil. And I'm not sure, I guess the problem would be like having them to be a legitimate threat, or like be a threat enough that the Saiyans get hurt a little bit, and then OC, seeing that the Saiyans have gotten hurt, are like, oh no, I can't deal with this anymore. And so he's like, okay, fine, I'll give you the amulet thing. Just promise to leave my friends and leave all them alone. Just promise that you won't hurt them. So he gives the amulet to like the leader, like the main villain of this story, who we don't really see much until now. Or maybe we'll see him before. I might add some more foreshadowing. Yeah, so he goes to the main villain, he's like, oh, here, have the amulet. He's like, okay, cool, I have the amulet, and now I have ultimate power, and now I can beat, like, Super Saiyan 3 Goku, or whatever the strongest thing is, because magic. After all, magic is one of the few things where it's like, oh, yeah, we don't actually know how strong magic can be, so it's not going to be such a big plot hole if through magic he's actually stronger than Goku or whatever. And okay, so then everyone kind of gets beat up a bit, like everyone, even with fusions and whatever, and then he's just, and then yeah, and the main character, and then OC is like, oh, I can't stand by this anymore. He's, he's like, oh, I'm so shy and whatever, but I just sort of caused all these problems, and this is all my fault. And but then like the characters are sort of the Saiyans are just all like, oh no, OC, I mean it is your fault, but it's not your fault, and you shouldn't blame yourself, and it's all right, and this is gonna happen eventually, so we'll be all right, and we're gonna keep fighting till the very end. And that sort of inspires OC. And OC has this whole big moment of revelation where he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna fight too. Although, like, he can't really fight because he's not really gonna contribute much. But he tries to fight, and then maybe because he's like his birthright or something, and it sort of affects the amulet's power. Somehow he does that, or maybe he just like breaks it. Or maybe it's just, I was just thinking more the fact that, like, through his sort of birthright or whatever, he has, like, power over the amulet. And so the amulet stops working, and that weakens the villain enough so that Goku can go in for the kill. And I don't care too much that Goku would get the kill for that. Because, while it'd make more sense for OC to do it, OC also seems like a character who probably wouldn't just, like, kill his enemies just like that. And okay, Goku probably wouldn't kill his enemies either, but this is a movie. In the movie, you always kill your enemies. You can't just leave them alive because the movies aren't canon, Yeah, so then all the villains leave, the aliens leave, because they're like, oh my god, our leader is gone, we should run away. And then OC is like, just promise that you're not gonna go around and start like raiding more planets and stuff. And he's like, and they're like, yeah, sure, totally, because it was just that main villain guy. He was the only evil one. We're all actually pretty nice. And but before they leave, OC finds out that his planet wasn't actually destroyed, and there are still survivors of his race back where they're on his planet. So then he finds out about it and is like, oh, okay, cool. So he's like, okay, thank you guys. Goes to the Saiyans, like, thank you guys. So now I'm going to go back to my planet and start rebuilding and find all the survivors, and we can repopulate our race again. And thank you for all you've done for me and all that stuff. And then Goku's just like, no problem. That was a fun fight. Or whatever Goku does. Typical Goku stuff. And then, Vegeta's being typical Vegeta. Goten and Trunks are just being whatever. Gohan, don't know. He'll also have some kind of role, but I don't know. And so yeah, then he leaves, and it's like, oh, that was nice. It's great, we're never going to mention him again. The end of the story. I'm not going to say that, but considering the movies generally aren't canons, so yeah, they're generally not going to mention him again. That was my first idea for an ideal Dragon Ball movie. So yeah, I did take some ideas from Wrath of the Dragon there, because I like that. I like the idea of the Wrath of the Dragon. I like that concept of like a story-driven and a character-driven story. That's what I want. Because, yeah, we've seen comedy focused in something like, Battle of Gods, and in like Fusion Reborn, which has a lot of comedic elements. I mean, Goten and Trunks fighting zombie Hitler. What more do you want? And we've had action-focused movies, which are basically all of the other movies. They're all just action-focused. But we've never had one just focus on the characters and character interactions. That's what I really like about Dragon Ball Z, just the characters and the way they interact and how it can be like both comedic but also like really interesting. And that some people like Toriyama can think of ways the characters interact in ways that you never really think about. So yeah, that's idea number 1 of my Dragon Ball Z ideal movie. I have a second one, and it's a lot more out there, but that's a story for another day. At least I have another idea for a vlog, so I'll do that whenever. I don't want to keep you guys waiting too long, but I'm just saying the second idea is probably not worth the wait, but I'm gonna just tell you about it anyway, because I might as well get these vlogs out. And that's all I had to say. So, bye guys!